Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Ukraine says at least 27 people were killed over the past 24 hours in Russian strikes. Now, according to the Ukrainian Air Force, Russian forces used more than 100 drones, aerial bombs, and ballistic missiles just hours after Kyiv declared a unilateral ceasefire at midnight on May 6 that it now says was violated by Moscow. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andrei Sybiha described the attacks as evidence that Russia is rejecting peace while continuing to link ceasefire language to May 9th Victory Day messaging. We'll speak more about all this and the latest with Milan Lelich, political analyst, RBC-Ukraine. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I also want to ask you about the timing and the announcement of these ceasefires. But first, give us your latest in terms of the damage, the casualties right now. We're hearing already at least 27 killed in a single night of strikes. Tell us what the situation is on your end.
Yeah, there was another big strike on Kryvyi Rih, but luckily no one is injured, it seems to be. But again, there are still a lot of casualties from the yesterday's strikes. Around 12 people are dead in the city of Dnipro, and more than 40 of them are wounded, some of them very seriously. So the doctors are literally fighting for their lives at this very moment. So it absolutely has nothing to do with any ceasefire at all. Obviously, the Russians have no intentions because the attacks happen here and there, both in the rear and in the front lines, in different parts of the front line. So they don't want to see this ceasefire happening now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and about that, let's walk back a little bit and explain to us, because we have the ceasefire that was unilaterally declared by the Ukrainians. The Russians have rejected it. Ukrainians wanted this over these past 24 hours. However, the Russians have wanted it for their special military parade. So tell us exactly what's gone down here. How feasible is a ceasefire at this point? Give us your take on what's happening.
Yeah, so the Russians' goal is very clear. They are absolutely afraid that something will spoil their long-awaited parade on the Red Square in Moscow at their maybe the most important day of the year in their cult of the Second World War. So it's for them it's almost like a pseudo-religion of sorts, something like that. So they are extremely afraid. We know about a lot of measures taken in Moscow, and not only in Moscow. Their air defense is there. Their mobile networks are off, and all sorts of stuff. So they are really afraid that something may happen in Moscow or around Moscow. That is why they suggested this ceasefire for a day or something on the 9th of May, whereas Ukraine doesn't think, and President Zelensky really spoke about it very openly, that we don't want to think about certain dates or something. You either want the hostilities and the war and everything to stop, or you don't want. If you want to behave in a manner like, today I'm okay to fight, but tomorrow, no, I'm in a bad mood or something's going on. Let's have a ceasefire tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, we're going to resume fighting. No, it doesn't work this way. It shouldn't work this way. So Ukraine suggested, I think, that in this particular story, in this particular plot, we have overplayed Russians a little bit, because Ukrainian side officially suggested ceasefire earlier, so showing our full goodwill to stop the fighting, okay, we want to see this war end. And okay, we passed the balls to the Russians to see what they will do. We've just discussed what they have done, how many attacks, how many people are killed and wounded, and so on, which shows that for Russia, this is only a very tactical stuff, because they don't want to have this day, this parade in Moscow spoiled. Mm-hmm. This is all the idea they have, and for Ukraine, it literally makes absolutely no sense. It should be serious. Either we have a ceasefire or we don't have a ceasefire, but not the way Russia suggests.
Just on the screen there, we're seeing, I believe it's a residential building that was just on the screen in Moscow. Also, I mean, struck just a few days ago, I believe, by Ukrainians very close to the Kremlin there. You've already alluded to this. I mean, Putin wants this parade to be the sign of something very unique, impenetrable. But at the same time, how realistic is that now? I mean, Ukrainians can reach far and deep into Russia. We've seen that now. So how vulnerable is that parade coming up in a few days?
Well, I don't think that our leadership has like a big idea intentionally, purportedly to spoil this parade and to attack whatever will happen there, because we know that there will be no machinery, because the Russians again are afraid that something may happen with this machinery, either because of us or not because of us. So the parade will look not that persuasive, and it will be like a shortened form or something of this parade that it used to be the years before that. So we'll see. As of now, we don't have an official position, because the official position was the following: like, okay, now since midnight, our suggestion is in place about the ceasefire. I mean, since 5th of May. So we'll see how Russia will behave. Okay, now we are seeing how Russia is behaving. And then we will decide what will or will not be done on the 8th and 9th of May. As of now, I don't have any information from my sources, but I think my best guess perhaps will be that Ukraine will think that it's free to do everything the military leadership thinks needs to be done on this particular day, which does not necessarily mean that something going to happen with that parade. And moreover, we all understand that the Russians really have built up such a great amount of air defense there. A lot of stuff is there. So maybe at that particular day, the air over Moscow, the sky over Moscow, will be more or less protected, I think, because they will have like this numerical superiority in the means of air defense. But if Russians behave as they behave, I don't think that Ukrainians will fully agree to such an artificial ceasefire imposed on us basically by the Russian. But we'll see. As of now, no official position, and also my sources haven't told me anything so far about what will be done on Friday, on Saturday. So we'll see.
Yeah, but as we've already said, I mean, even if it was unilateral, we've seen the answer come from Moscow now, in very quick succession in those strikes. Just a quick one. I'll show you a quote from Ukraine's foreign minister, Andriy Sybiha, released this, I believe, on X, basically criticizing Moscow. I'm quoting here: Moscow has once again ignored a realistic and fair call to end hostilities. This shows Russia rejects peace, and its false calls for a ceasefire on May 9th have nothing to do with diplomacy. Putin is only interested in military parades, not human life. How do you think that message is going to be also received across the world, Western partners, but also just generally around the world?
Well, I think that literally Ukraine, when I said that we have partly overplayed the Russians in this particular story, because we suggested that the ceasefire started earlier than they have suggested, it means that more lives may be saved, and it shows that Ukraine has the commitment for ceasefire, for ending of the war and everything, whereas Russia does not have this commitment. I think the situation is very clear. We'll see if there is any or will be any reaction from the United States, because we all understand that Donald Trump and all his team, they are very much obsessed with the Iranian affairs. Also, a lot is going on literally right now in that region. So maybe they do not focus that much on Ukraine. But again, I think that our position is quite clear and powerful, that basically, as you quoted our foreign minister Sybiha, that lives matter more than some parades or dates in the calendar or whatever. So I think it really shows that we really want peace whereas Russia does not want that peace. But okay, Donald Trump has a big story of, like misinterpretation of different messages. Sometimes he draws absolutely unexpected conclusions about who's guilty in the war and who's winning the war. Like everyone used to be very surprised by Donald Trump's remarks and assessment regarding our war. So we'll see. But I think that Ukraine couldn't do anything like better or more. Okay, we have a very clear suggestion. Let's stop the war in earnest. First start with a ceasefire, but in earnest. Not because there is a certain date in the calendar, not just because you want to hold a certain event and not to spoil the picture that you'll show on your television. Not because of that, but because this war needs to be ended. Mm-hmm. So this is a very clear suggestion. We have a very clear answer from the Russians that they just don't care. So that they want the war to go on, which means that I don't think that Ukraine should feel itself like sort of obliged to do anything just in favor of Russians because they have this parade and it's so important for them. On the other hand, I underline, it does not mean that something gonna happen at Moscow or particularly at Red Square on the 9th of May. I think that if our forces will do some activities, they will be chosen because of military strategy and military tactics, not just because to spoil them their date or their big day. Not because of that. Ukraine doesn't choose its girls just to spoil the show, for the Russians. No, it doesn't work this way.
So we'll have to see how that does end up looking like in the next few days. But look, thanks for all the latest from Ukraine there. Milan Lelich was our guest. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.